If you look at the trillions of dollars spent on military hardware and technology, a war between the United States and Iran looks entirely one-sided. America's physical mass and global reach appear to dwarf anything Iran could field. However, in a full-scale conflict, the United States faces a path to defeat. This failure wouldn't stem from a lack of firepower, but from the unyielding reality of physical geography. History is full of tribal armies and borderland people defeating world empires that possessed infinite resources. From the Greeks at Marathon to the Macedonians conquering Eurasia in a decade, the smaller, outgunned side often holds a structural advantage. Iran applies this playbook by looking past America's carrier groups and focusing on the extreme physical vulnerabilities of the United States' regional allies. Iran's offensive strategy targets a fragile economic linchpin hidden right out in the open in the Middle Eastern desert. These targets are the nations of the Gulf Cooperation Council, or the GCC. Countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia are incredibly wealthy, yet they function as highly artificial desert oases. They are the foundation of the Petro-Dollar system. This is a decades-old arrangement where Middle Eastern oil must be purchased strictly with US dollars. This mandatory demand for dollars provides the foundational value for the currency. It is the primary engine of the American economy and its global wealth. If the GCC countries collapse, the petrodollar system effectively dies. The American economy would likely experience a rapid, devastating contraction. Iran's primary geographic advantage is its topography. The country functions as a massive, highly elevated mountain fortress. This allows Iran to hide cheap drone and missile bases deep within these ranges. They remain insulated from surveillance and nearly impossible to destroy through airstrikes alone. In contrast, the geography of the GCC consists of entirely flat, exposed desert. These nations possess no natural physical defenses to shield their infrastructure. These artificial cities also produce very little. They rely on foreign imports for 80% of the food their populations consume every day. Their water supply is even more precarious. 60% of their fresh water comes from desalination plants, massive industrial complexes exposed to the open sky. No amount of wealth can buy geographic security here. The GCC nations are sitting ducks for mountain-launched drones that can instantly sever their supply of water and food. This brings us to the Strait of Hormuz, the most sensitive geographic choke point in the global economy. If this strait is closed, economies like Japan and China would likely see their oil reserves vanish and their industries collapse in less than 9 months. The blockade also works in reverse. If oil cannot leave, the ships carrying 80% of the GCC's food cannot enter. The desert begins to starve almost immediately. By closing this narrow gap, Iran holds a dual veto. They can simultaneously hold the global economy hostage and starve their direct regional rivals. Dubai is the prime example of this economic model. It is a tax-free safe haven built entirely on the confidence of foreign investors and expats. That model is extremely sensitive to perception. A handful of drone strikes on a major airport or a luxury district would instantly shatter the illusion of stability. This triggers immediate capital flight. As wealthy expats and corporations flee the region, the city's artificial economic model would go bankrupt overnight. There is also an ideological vulnerability. Attacks on nations like Bahrain are designed to ignite internal religious uprisings among Shia majorities against their Sunni-led governments. Iran doesn't need to physically occupy these nations. It only needs to destroy the perception of safety to collapse their entire economic existence. Typically, GCC nations take their massive oil profits and invest those dollars into the American stock market. But if oil exports stop and their cities are under fire, they will stop investing in America, redirecting remaining trillions toward their own survival. This would cause a domestic crisis in the US. Without constant investment from the Gulf, the tech companies driving American markets would hemorrhage value. The American economic engine relies on an unbroken chain of Middle Eastern wealth, a chain Iran knows exactly how to sever. A major factor in this conflict is hubris. The United States often assumes that its superior military technology can overcome any geographic reality. This contrasts with Iran's current psychological state. The loss of their leadership has galvanized the population into a highly motivated, unified resistance. We are seeing how a society that remains unified under pressure can trap a much larger opponent that refuses to acknowledge its own strategic blind spots. Modern power is dictated by controlling physical geography and knowing exactly which economic dominoes to tip to bankrupt a global superpower.